Noon. Wow, what a pleasure this is. A beautiful afternoon on Spelman's campus. Everything's blooming, including our arts, so we're excited to be here. And let me start off by saying, welcome home, Calida. We're really honored to have you back on campus. This is a wonderful time for you to be here. There's so much happening. And as a Spelman alum, it's a special honor, particularly for me. And just to know that you left here and have become so internationally recognized warms all of our heart. It just takes Spelman and what you did here as a student just to all new heights. So I'm so appreciative of that. Also, too, we get the great pleasure of having your exhibit here, Away with the Tides. And you know, I'm especially proud of this, you know, being my Spelman sister, but also being a collector of your remarkable art. So I was so glad to see my piece. This is the first time I get to see it and maybe bring it home. So thank you so much. But thank you for sharing your talent with us, you know, and allowing Spelman College Museum of Fine Arts to be the last stop on your exhibition national tour. This marks our Fine Arts Museum. This is our 30th year. This is our 30th anniversary of the Spelman Museum. And there's really no better way to celebrate than having, you know, someone like Calida here to reflect our own image of our art. One of the things we admire about our museum here is that we are dedicated to art for and by Black women. And that dedication is, you can't find that anywhere else on the globe but at Spelman College. So we're very honored to have this moment with you. So, and our museum, you know, was founded obviously in '96, and back then and to this day, we are the one and only. But also during the infancy of the museum, Calida studied painting here at Spelman. That was about her time, and she's gone on to be such a prolific artist. Not only is her legacy on display throughout Spelman Museum, but Calida is joined today by her daughter, Sky, and I believe her other daughter is here too. Sage, who I thought was the older child, so Sky's going to be mad at me because I thought that was big sis and it's little sis. But thank you both for being here. I love the legacy between you all. But thank you to everyone for being here to celebrate this joyous occasion and this milestone today. And I also want to thank one of my favorite museums, the Perez Art Museum of Miami, for commissioning this impactful work. And it is my pleasure now to ask the Spelman Museum Director, Liz Andrews, who will share more about Calida's exhibition and the museum's program. Join me, Liz. Thank you. Come on up. So can I just say something about Liz? You know, she's going to be surprised I say this. So Liz, you've been with us now for
5 school years.
5 school years, 5 academic years. I've been here for 2. But during that time, you know, Liz reminds us how important art is at Spelman College, and our former president, Dr. Mary Schmidt-Campbell, actually reinforced that. You know, Spelman's known to be strong in STEM, minors and majors. But Dr. Campbell brought to us the A in STEAM, and she started the Center for Innovation Arts. She was a big supporter and brought in some outside support for our curatorial studies program led by Dr. Cheryl Finley, and then bringing to us Liz Andrews. So there's plans for us to continue to grow art at Spelman. It has been in our history for so long. If you look at the small building outside, that's where some of our artists started in that small little building there. And so I just want to say, Liz, to you, thank you for keeping art in Spelman, at Spelman, you, Cheryl, and others. And I really appreciate the work you're doing.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
And I have to reflect right back to President Brewer, how amazing it is to have you here and have you be such an advocate for the arts. We were very pleasantly surprised to know that you are one of the lenders to this show. So you'll see one of the pastel paintings in the gallery. is loaned to us by Roz Brewer. Thank you so much for all that you do for Spelman College and for the arts here especially. All right, welcome, welcome, welcome. We are so happy to have you here this afternoon in celebration of Calida Rawles, in celebration of 30 years of Spelman Museum. And I have to give a shout out to some legends who are in the room right now. We have the first director of Spelman College Museum, Dr. Akua McDaniel, in the building. We also have some of Calida's professors right here. We have Dr. Arturo Lindsay. We've got Janelle C. Holloway. And I'm forgetting someone. Who am I forgetting? Yes, Mr. Hamilton. Thank you. We have some incredible artists, a legacy of art here. So, Calida Rawles, Away with the Tides, is at Spelman Museum. We just opened up yesterday, and it's the first time we will have an exhibition on view through the summer. So we're always asked, can you please have a show in the summer? This year, the answer is yes, and I think this is the perfect one because people have been banging on our doors, like, when is the show coming? It has to be here. We can't wait to see it. So I think that this is a perfect way to celebrate the continuing legacy of the arts at Spelman College. And we're so thankful to Perez Art Museum Miami for organizing the exhibition, and Maritza Lacayo, Associate Curator, as well as Fabiana Sotillo, Curatorial Assistant, for organizing the show. I have to thank my incredible colleague, Dr. Brandy Pettyjohn, for the incredible work you've done on this show and so many other things, as well as our 25-26 Roy Lichtenstein Fellow, Ming Washington, who is a Spelman alumna and has been instrumental in bringing this show here, as well as Cherie Franklin, who is our operations manager and makes everything happen behind the scenes. And of course, I have to thank Calida for being an incredible artist and being so open and excited to engage with students and faculty and the community here at Spelman. I hope you feel welcome because people love your work and love you and love the depths of the messages that you bring to the world through your art. And we have a work in the collection by Calida Rawles. So as soon as you walk in the door, there's a painting from 2023 called Thy Name We Praise, which is in the Spelman Museum collection and was painted with Spelman College in mind. So I have to say thank you also to our supporters, the Mellon Foundation, Art Bridges Foundation, Lauren Amos Foundation, and finally, very importantly, the Friends of the Museum. Every time that you give a gift to the Spelman College Museum, you support exhibitions and programs like this. So please feel that your dollars go to something positive in this place because they really do. And finally, I want to just introduce our speakers for the day. In conversation with Calida will be Dr. Rhea Combs, who is, yes, give it up for, who's joining us from the DC, Baltimore area. Dr. Combs is a senior fellow in contemporary and global art at the Baltimore Museum of Art, and her work explores the future of curatorial practice and considers new models for the study and presentation of art that is rooted in cultural equity and global collaboration. She was previously the Director of Curatorial Affairs at Smithsonian's National Portrait Gallery in Washington, D.C., and at the Smithsonian National Museum of African American History and Culture, where she served as Curator of Film and Photography. And she also was Assistant Curator at the Spelman College Museum of Fine Art when she was in grad school here at Emory. So this is also a homecoming for Rhea. So welcome back. She received her Bachelor of Art degree from Howard University. I don't know if there's anybody from Howard in the building. And Master of Art degree from Cornell and a doctorate from Emory. In conversation with her is our Artist of the Hour, Calida Rawles, who received her BA from Spelman College in 1998 and an MA from New York University in 2000. She's had solo museum exhibitions at illustrious places such as Memphis Brooks Museum, Perez Art Museum, Miami, Delaware Contemporary, and now Spelman, and is in the collection of numerous museums, had numerous gallery exhibitions across the world, numerous group shows. So we are in the company of an incredible, incredible artist who does hyper-real paintings that are both beautiful but have incredible depth. So with that, I'd love to welcome Calida and Rhea to the stage.
Hello. Yep, great. Hello? Yep, there it is. So, thank you all. I'm so excited to be here and in conversation with Calida. I have been looking forward to this for so long, and so I want to thank you for the time. I want to thank the Spelman Museum for bringing us together, and I am really pleased that we're able to celebrate this wonderful and beautiful exhibition, Away with the Tides. It's really been a long time coming to have this conversation. We've had several conversations in your studio in Los Angeles, and so I'm hoping that we can sort of get that rapport and unpack some of these things in that same way. So I'm going to start off with just a general question. I have the pleasure of having been in conversation with several of your close friends, and one of them, an artist by the name of Amy Sherald, said to me one time, "I think that Calida is one of the best painters I know. She is one of the finest technical painters, and her reverence and respect for your craftsmanship was so heartfelt." So my first question for you is, when did you know you wanted to paint? When did you start off, or when did you decide, I want to be an artist?
Well, thank you all for being here, and I'm really glad to have this opportunity to talk to you today. One, I kind of think you're like born an artist. You kind of are just someone that can see things differently. So I feel like I was always this artist. Now, when did I want to do it as a profession? That took some time. I think I was an art major. I came into Spelman College actually undecided. I didn't know if I wanted to go into history, if I was going to be psychology or sociology. I was kind of interested in all those fields, but didn't think I was going to do art because, you know, my parents were working class parents, and they said things like, you know, how are you going to get a job? What you going to do? Painting. So I'm from that, you know, and they are loving and supportive, but it was like a scary field for them. And even, I guess, anyone, but, you know, but when I went into the art department and I took a few classes with Dr. Arturo Lindsay, or my art history class with Dr. Kua McDaniel, it was just, I felt like I was home and this is what I could do all the time. So I ended up being an art major. I said, sorry, parents, I'm being an art major, right? I'm doing it. But even after that, I went to grad school, and I just had so much, I still didn't know a way. I didn't know what to do. So even after I graduated, I went, it was like, I think I told myself I couldn't still get a job there. So I left the kind of space a little bit. I think I didn't get, I don't know, my grad school program, I didn't think I get the support I really needed. And my self-doubt, I think, doubled down. So, you know, I did a lot of other things for a bit.
So I was going to ask you about that because I understand that you did some illustration,
Yes.
You did graphic design,
Yes.
And then also, were you an author or did you work as an artist for young authors? Or?
Yes, I wrote a children's book called Same Difference. I worked as an art director for a nonprofit or public policy group. I did all different types of fields because I, you know, in my head, I couldn't, be this artist.
But were you still painting this whole while or doing some of that?
I was still painting. I always painted, it was like in my kitchen or on the side, which was great. I had a little studio in my kitchen. I was always painting, but also still trying to find my way. I think I'll give it back to Amy, who is an amazing painter. I think it was a couple things that happened. It was not to go into Amy's business, but she had, she public says she had a heart transplant. And I remember my daughters were young and she was in the hospital, and I went to go see her at the hospital. I think I went there for a week and a half because her brother passed away from cancer, and her family was there with her brother, so no one was in the hospital with her when her heart was really, I think it was at like 10% or something ridiculous. So I went to stay with her, and when I went in there, she was like, right when I get out, I'm going to apply to this thing, and then I'm going to become a famous artist. Just watch, right? And I was like, what? Okay, great. You know what I mean? First, you're going to get the heart. She said, yeah, first I'm going to get this heart, and then I'm going to apply to this, and then I'm going to get it, and I can see it. It's going to happen. I can't curse, but y'all, that's exactly what happened. She got that. I can't remember the name of it, but it was at the
Outwin Buchiva portrait. Mm-hmm.
She applied. I was there when she put the application in when she was in the hospital. She applied. She won that. Mm-hmm. She got the option to paint Michelle Obama's portrait. I saw the whole thing. It was like, what? Maybe I need to start believing. Maybe I've got to
lock
faith.
in. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was like, you know what? Like, I'm telling myself I can't do this. And so therefore that's where it will end, right? So I remember to tear up, get my makeup together. But I remember that, and I was like, okay, like, I have to first say I can do this, and that's the first step, And then I did it. I started, I was like, you know what, first I have to figure out what I'm going to say, what I'm going to do, get my things together. And at the same time, I was starting to swim. Mm-hmm. I was swimming, and I was trying to figure out what my voice would be. My husband and I was talking. I was like, okay, I'm about to do this. He was trying to get me to get a studio outside of the house anyway. And I was like, no, we can't afford that. We're not going to do it. And he was like, just do it, And
so this was faith.
Yes, it was faith. And I got the studio outside of my out of my house.
This is the one in Inglewood?
It was in Inglewood. And I said, I'm not going to sell anything for a year. I said, honey, I'm just going to paint until I can figure something out. I didn't want the pressure. I said, I need to figure this out. So for a year, I went in there and just painted and was thinking things through. And that's where I really got grounded and figured out my visual language. That's when I started using the water. I started thinking of the abstraction in the body with water. I started getting fascinated in it. And it was in that year that I was like, okay, we're not going to have no money. I'm not making no money. This is going to be, But I needed to invest in myself. And I had to believe in that, and that's when it kind of came.
And so with that, in that sort of what I'm going to call incubation period, right, where you are gestating even, if we want to deal with water and the way in which, I know that literature is a real important sort of aspect and part of your process. Did that play in any role when you were thinking about water and trying to come up with this visual language, and you're, in this personal classroom, this sort of intensive? Where did literature or reading or come into play?
It definitely did. Now, I'm a person, a lot of people listen to music while they paint. I listen to a lot of audio books, but I also like to read books. There's two different kind of experiences, audio and reading them, but definitely literature plays a part. I was listening to Citizen, or by Claudia Rankine, and I love James Baldwin, and I was just listening to all these things. At the same time, when I was in that incubation period you're talking about, while I was painting, it was just coincidence that I had all this work. I'm really good friends with, I'll say, my cousin who went to Howard was really good friends with Ta-Nehisi Coates. He was writing Water Dancer and in LA. He took a moment and went to LA. So she was like, well, his wife, I was in a book club with his wife when I lived in New York. And she came to my studio a little earlier, saw it, and she told him, you need to go by Calida's studio. And he came by. We had known each other for years, but he came by and he saw the work. And he was like, this is crazy. You're doing stuff with water. I'm writing this book about water. And he was like, can I send you the manuscript? Because it's very, I'm like, he's like, can I send you the manuscript? I'm trying to figure this out, and I'd love, like, I can't believe we're on kind of the same wavelength. And I was like, yeah, I'm painting this, and so he sent it to me.
Purely coincidental.
It was
serendipity.
Serendipitous, right? So I read the manuscript, the first ones was kind of a little different, and he said, I can't promise that you'd be on the cover or anything like that. He was like, my publisher wants just the text, but I want an iconic image that you think of like The Great Gatsby. Like, you don't need the words, you would just know the cover, like you know what book it is. He was like, I want something like that. He was like, but I can't guarantee they're gonna, say yes. I said, no problem. I said, I got these smaller canvases, the shape of a book, I was like, let me think this through. And I painted like 6 paintings that I thought could work as the cover, right? And I was sending them one at a time as I finished while he was writing. So I was sending one at a time. And the publishers got the right to 6 of them. Or not 6, 4 of the 6. And so I don't know, in time they'll use them in different ways, but he was like, they loved it, Wow. First thing he said to me was kind of like, did you paint these? Right? He sent me a text. Did you paint? I was like, yes. And then he was like, quiet. And then I was like, he was like, I didn't know you were going to paint them. And that was like what he texted. And I was like, man, he didn't even like them.
Right.
But he was sending them to the publishers, like texting me and then texting
real
them
time.
in real time. And I didn't know it was like the space. I was like, it's okay. There's going to be more.
Right.
Don't worry, because he's like quiet, I was like, I can do better, And he was like, no, I love them. Oh my God, keep sending them. And they loved it,
That's
and
so
it worked.
interesting, though.
Yeah.
It's like we can also be our own worst critic, right? Like when he doesn't respond instantly.
Yeah, you see the bubbles and they go away. Yeah. And I was like, he was like, you painted these? I thought you were going to do a sketch. It was the only thing he did. So then I was like, yeah, I went for it. Because I don't really sketch it would be too rough. And he wouldn't see or understand if I did a sketch, what I was doing. I was like, I got to paint it.
So there's 2 questions. Okay, one, I'm going to go back again. So when you decided art as your practice, your major here at Spelman, we have your esteemed colleagues, your professors. Was it pastel? Was it acrylic? Can you sort of describe kind of your experience in the studio learning, and what did you learn, if you will, some morsels that then you kind of called on during that, what we're going to call incubation period? Was there anything from, your nuggets, even going back to your youth with your parents in Delaware, and, were you going to museums, art galleries? Was there art in and around the house, even so they were supportive, but you weren't going to get a job being an artist?
Yeah.
I mean, how did art in these moments impact your life as you took the leap of faith?
Well, one, my dad and I, my parents are divorced, but on weekends I'd be with my father in Philadelphia. And we would go to the Rodin Museum, go to Philadelphia Art Museum. We went all around Old City. There was a lot of galleries, and we would do that often on weekends. And he knew I loved to draw and paint. And I remember he bought me my drawing table, which I still have in my studio right now. He bought me that, I think I was like 14, this drafting table. I haven't given it up yet.
Nor should you.
And So they definitely were supportive. And my mom painted and drew, but it was like, and she was a great photographer. She even had like one of the bathrooms in our house, she made like a dark room, a little bit in there, and she would watercolor. And she is a great artist, but it was like, you know, something you do on the side.
Yeah.
Yes. You know? So then, you know, from having all of that, but then coming to Spelman and getting the support, I think when I was painting, I loved my painting classes. I think painting 1, 2, and 3, I think I took all of them, and then the drawing classes with Miss Hollywood, Shauna Hollywood.
Yep.
And Shauna Holloway, sorry. And it was those classes, I think that beginning that really gave me a great understanding of composition and trying to get like I don't want to say a full story, but understanding the depths of where I could go with my work. I think they really are and were, the Spelman College and those classes were my foundation. And I did pull upon that. But when I started swimming and looking at the body, underwater, seeing the abstraction that happened, seeing the beauty, the light, but also like coming out of the water after a long day, I felt spiritually lifted. I felt lighter, and I kept thinking how no matter what was going on with me, how heavy I felt lighter coming out of the water. And I thought maybe I could use this in my art. Maybe I could talk about difficult, divisive issues, something very heavy, but it would look light visually. When you look at it, you'll just see a beautiful painting and it'll feel good, you know, but yet I can put codes in there. I could put iconography in there that might be hidden. I could have messages that could be documented, especially if it went to institutions and could be taught, but it doesn't have to be in your face. You know, it doesn't have to be so heavy when you live with it, you know? So that's how it kind of developed.
And this is interesting because this question around either, you know, this sort of balance and faith. One, you had this curiosity. One of the things that I've often found really attractive and fascinating about you is just like your endless imagination. I just remember one of the first times I met, I was like, oh my God, this woman's imagination and your ability to create and have all of these ideas swirling, pardon the pun, but swirling around, and then you're able to sort of bring those forward on canvas and using water. I'm thinking about art historically. You have, you know, like Kerry James Marshall has uses water in a lot of his works. There are a lot of artists who have played with this idea of water. But with you, I see it as kind of like it's not necessarily a beginning or an ending. There's these possibilities, yet and still there is a sort of depth and weight there. So I want to just kind of, with this language, and as you were sort of teasing out, starting with swimming, when you started swimming, I mean, you looked at light, the light that was coming through. Can you kind of really take us through and kind of talk about sort of this choice of water, because it's not always the same color. You're also playing with color when you're looking at water. So there's a sort of universal language there, but I guess my question is really, how do you choose these different tonalities and the light and the depth that you want us to kind of engage with when we're looking at the water?
Well, it depends on like what I'm thinking about at the time. Like I did a show, let's see, this one here, Dark Matter.
Is this from Some Kind of Oblivion?
No, this one is from On the Other Side of Everything.
Okay.
That show, I was thinking about, I don't know, just simply like black men and their lack of visibility. I was thinking of, it was really weird. I was thinking how could I, as a woman, a black woman, think about black men in this time and space? And at the time, it was a lot with Black Lives Matter, and things were happening, you know. And you can't walk in their shoes, anybody's shoes. So I was thinking about how we only see half of anyone.
Mm-hmm.
You only see what you're presenting right now. You don't know what's happening behind, personally. You know nothing about what's the story behind everything that they do and all these other things. And so thinking about what we're only looking at is the reflection that they let you see, and it depends on what position you are looking at them. So I thought of that even in this piece here, this man, and you're only seeing this type of reflection, this body, and this, this force. And some of the pieces that won Dark Matter that was up before, it was, like this dark space, but it also looked like, the one thing I do often is think about galaxies and stars, and I put that in. That one, the water itself looked like you were in a galaxy. Right. So it was in me thinking how this unknown space, it was just a larger vision of this unknown space that everyone has inside of them. Mm-hmm. But it's so dark you may not see it, but there is a figure, I don't know if you can see it in the middle, kind of on the side there. There's a figure there. But you can be swallowed up by that. And so these lights became, even though it was underwater, it looked like you were in space. It looked like time travel or movement. But that piece there spoke to that for me. But in the show A Certain Oblivion, I did a lot of dark pieces there because I was thinking of the dark times that politically I feel like we were as women. I saw the overturning of Roe v. Wade, and I thought of this rebirth. And I was thinking that we as society needs to start over. And a lot of times the darkness or the end is the beginning, right? So we're seeing something kind of end the idea of what, I thought our values were. And now we have to begin again. So how are we going to do that? And so those dark images in my secret fantasy world while I was painting, it was almost like a rebirth, a restart. And I used my daughters as models and thought this new generation is going to have to come up, and they're going to have to push forward, and they'll be our superheroes, these new young women. And I believe I have faith in them.
And in a lot of your work, I think you're there's a play with dimensionality, right? So sometimes you can look at it and feel like, are they being weighted down or are they lifting up? There's that sort of tension that I think is also part of this process of using water. Can you speak a little bit more about sort of this? Am I off base with that, I guess is the question, in terms of sometimes looking at the work in the abstraction even of it, right?
Let's go back. I think I saw the space in which we travel is a good one to talk about that. Or not. Maybe we don't go back. Let's just say, oh, there it is. Okay. Well, this one, I did a show, A Dream for My Lilith, what is dedicated to my cousin who had passed away, my cousin Shauna.
The Howard alum.
Howard alum.
Yes.
And it was, to me, in honor of sisterhood. And thinking about young black girls. Even I was reading Georgetown's Girls Interrupted, like all of these documents about, the treatment of black girls versus white girl, people of color and how they're discriminated in all different ways, in brackets of education and treated in schools. And we were also at the same time looking at all these viral videos, of seeing girls getting hurt, by police or school attendants or whatever. But anyway, in the space in which we travel, I thought of my cousin and I in another somewhat like kind of dimension, and like this aerial view of the water in this motion.
Yes.
I used my daughter Sky as a model and one of her best friends, Tiffany, and then I played with, in my head, colorism. So one was darker and lighter, and just playing with there's so many different layers of what happens with sisterhood that divides and brings us together.
Yes.
And so thinking of all of that, so I had them swimming around a pool doing millions of pictures, and I played with that and kind of pushed back this corner to feeling like the galaxies were going. Out here was some like foreign space. I linked their arms together in this way, thinking of this DNA connection that we have. And it was just really a fun painting to do. But yes, the light, the depths of it was, something I really enjoyed, and just getting like a certain perspective.
So my mind is going in all these different directions. Okay, one, I'm going to say in terms of the process. You photograph. So you mentioned to us that you don't really, you told Ta-Nehisi that you don't really sketch. Mm-hmm. But I'm aware that you photographed the works prior to starting to paint. Did you take photography? You said your mom had a dark room. So was photography a part of your, formal training?
No.
Okay.
All these photos are done with my cell phone. I'd be like, okay. Because it really doesn't, in my head, some of them come out real good, but I know I can take the image and make it more. I just got to get enough.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like
that's sketching for you, if you will.
I'll do like 400 photos and kind of like put them together. If there was no arm on this, if I cut it off, my fingers in the photo by chance or something, I can see beyond it. I know I could do this or play with that, get this. And sometimes I can get a great one image. I'm like, ooh, got it. I'm going to push it further. I want it to look better than the image anyway. And so, yes, that's how I first start. I get photos. And then I use a monitor. Sometimes I zoom in and out, and look at that while I'm painting. I see sometimes like other artists will put pictures next to it. I don't usually do that, but it's mostly like looking at a monitor and going
And
back.
so are you using, I know that to think about your question about swimming and the light and how you felt after you would leave the pool, are you playing with light here or only using natural light? Are you bringing studio lights and kind of enhancing sections that you, in your mind, have this idea you want to convey? Or do you see the photos, take the photos, and then the idea around, like, for the DNA comes together? Which comes first, the chicken or the egg?
It goes back and forth, but mostly I don't add lights, even though I'd love to do that. In the future. I do high noon when you're not supposed to be out in the water in the sun. I like the sun to be right above. It's like, I think photographers, it's like the worst time for quote unquote real photographers. They don't like that time. That's perfect for me. I want all the pops. I want all the extra light to hit off the water and reflect. So I use the high noon light, and use the natural light, yeah.
Okay.
It's so great that I'm in Cali since it doesn't rain that much. Right. So it's perfect to get a lot of my shoots. Yeah.
And so now with this one, you see sort of toward the end, there's a bit of abstraction like toward her foot. And I know that you use sort of Easter eggs in some of your work. Not all of it, but like, how did that come about? And am I mistaken when I look at some of these and I see little sort of symbols and very gentle gestures around them?
This one does not, except for like that thinking of a DNA strand with the cross. But sometimes, yes, there's another one that's the two. I'm not sure it's in this, but there's.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Where I did put 2 cities in the girl's ankle. Like you wouldn't necessarily see it until like you point it out because it's too square. It looks almost like Utah or something. Oh, well, this one is a good one we could stop at. For example, this is the painting North and Penn. It was in my head for thinking of Freddie Gray when he passed and how Baltimore just erupted. And he was, the eruption happened at North and Penn, and he was killed in North and Penn, or where he was picked up by the police. Freddie Gray was arrested in Baltimore on North and Penn Avenue, and by the time he got to the police station, his spine was broken, and I think other parts of his body were
neck, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he was pronounced dead. And I think he was picked up for something like having a switchblade or something that was legal. It was actually not even,
Yeah.
Anyway, the city protested. So I painted this figure thinking of, when you're seeing this stuff reported, and it was getting over and over, it was driving me crazy. What could I do? I wanted to like reach in and get him. So I thought if I could reach his hand, in my fantasy world. And I think the slide went by, it was I think right before it or after, where I put a geographical location of Baltimore right there where the harbor is in his body. So I wanted documented, this is in Baltimore and this is what happened. His body was broken apart. So it was, to me, it was like some form of kind of like, we're not going to forget. Maybe it was even for myself. Sometimes it was like, I need to remember and know this happened. Because the names, everything was going by too fast. And then it gets swiped, away, and the new subject that the news are going to talk about is something else, And then we'll be on, And I thought I needed to document this in some way. I needed to remember. I needed to know Freddie Gray's name. It was like, even for me, and I was very blessed. Went to a great collector, and it gets shown.
Yeah. So it was a sort of mark making, if sort of this, and historicizing this.
Yes.
So I'm going to use that as a segue to talk about this work that's in the show, Away with the Tides, this exhibition. This was an all original works for this show. Can you tell us a little bit about sort of how this came to be? You were commissioned, as it was explained, you were commissioned by the Perez Art Museum, but you did not grow up in Florida. No. So can you tell us about sort of the process of taking on this project?
Yes. So I was in conversation with Maritza Lakoya, and she called me and said they wanted to do a show with me, which I was very honored. And they said, but they would love for me to do something more site-specific, something that could talk to the community there, and bring, And so I started thinking, what could I do? But at the same time, I'm in California, and only thing I'm, seeing of Florida was the news, right? So I'm watching the news, and one thing that stood out for me that I was waiting for some reporting to happen was that AP Black history wouldn't be recognized in the schools. Right. And I remember thinking, what do the Black people there feel? What has happened? Where's the article about their reaction? Their reaction to that? And I didn't see anything. But I kept waiting. Is someone going to write about this? Do I, what's happening? I guess I had to write it, but I didn't have no time. I was painting. So I was like, okay, man, how are they, what's going on there? And then I saw the governor speak on the news about, he was responding to President Biden at the time, talking about the highway act that he put together, that he said, wasn't going to be racist or something. He said that he was going to...
With his infrastructure
bill to make sure it protects, communities.
Okay.
And the governor said, I was watching on the news something like, highways can't be racist. And I was like, whoa. So at the same time, I'm researching about Black communities in Florida. Because again, I'm thinking, where's the Black voices? Where are Black people in Florida, and how are they feeling? Because one thing I think of when I think of Florida was the Strip. I know about the Cuban immigration, but I didn't know the history or the people that were the Black community there. So I learned about Overtown, this community that was thriving, that was once considered the second Harlem of the South, that had over 200 businesses, that when I did a little research and saw all those iconic photos, I remember seeing one of Martin Luther King in a pool, and it was like in Overtown when he went to visit Florida, and visit Miami. Or I saw like these photographs of Malcolm X and Muhammad Ali at the counter talking, and I was like, oh, it was in Overtown. So it was like, it was the place to be.
Right.
And then seeing when the Federal Highway Act had put the highway right in the middle of Overtown and displaced so many people in the community. They lost their homes, and then the businesses, and the community being disrupted in such a way destroyed generational wealth. And I said, I called Maritza, and I said, can I talk about Overtown? And she was like, yes, So,
because this is an open secret in Miami, right? This kind of washing away of this community, or erasing it, through raising it through this highway. And it's not unique to Miami. This is not unique to Overtown. It happened to Detroit. It happens in Memphis. I think this is part of the reason that your show, one of the many reasons it's been able to travel, is because you've been able to bring these kind of ideas, even here in Atlanta, of the ways in which highways have kind of decimated, erased these rich historical Black communities.
Yes.
So then how did you connect this notion of this erasure with your use of water and integrate them in this exhibition?
Well, I printed out shapes of the highway. I started thinking about the cross of the highway and thinking of they're being sacrificed on it for this supposed, when they went into Overtown, they were saying, we're going to bring jobs, we're going to make the community better. It was that spiel that you hear every time before you get taken,
Before a data center comes your way.
Yes, it's going to be better for all of you. Just sign right here,
Right.
And so I started thinking and printing out these images, and I went to another serendipitous moment, or whatever you want, or kismet moment, whatever you say. I told my husband, I was going to do this. I'm going to do Overtown, and he was like, "Oh, you know what? He called his cousin that lived in Florida, and it just so happened that she worked and ran the Overtown Community Center." What? So I was like, "Okay,
won't he do it?
Yeah, let's do this." So I called her. It was like, didn't even know. Okay, so then Danny, I called her, and I said, I need some models. I want to talk to the people in Overtown. So she started, I said, tell them about what I'm doing, show them my work. Say, I'd love to, anyone that would be interested. So I researched about Overtown, the city itself, and during segregation laws, I was thinking about the history when, at the time, the thriving time of Overtown, the city was segregated. And they had just a couple pools, but I did a shoot in the Gibson pool, which was the pool that only Black people could swim in, and then the Virginia Key beach, where Black people could go to the beach.
Now, was this your first time shooting and photographing and working with people in open water?
Yes.
Okay.
It was my first time.
What was that experience like?
Scary. It was scary. But especially I had one model who was close to 80 years old, and when I had Miss Roll there, I got a little nervous about putting her in the water. I was like, so we ended up just doing her feet, her hands and things like that, because when she was open to getting in the water, but I was like, not on my watch. This can't happen. This would just be, I can see it now. This would not work. But we talked, and she was just wonderful, and she remembered going there, and it was even though she only lived about 2 to 3 miles. It wasn't very far. I don't want to exaggerate and say 2 miles. Let's just say 4, even though I don't think it was even 4.
Right.
Away. She hadn't been back. And this is where she'd go as a child and swim. So she was really excited. I had her at the pool, with a Gibson pool too. But then we went to this beach, and I brought her back there, and she told me all the stories, and we walked around in her memory. So it became just such a beautiful moment with her. And then I shot different images of her, and then I end up doing the diptych piece, the parts that make you whole. And I thought of time. Even though they look very similar, the one at the top, you could see that the water is right at her feet.
Exactly.
And at the bottom, it's almost up to her knees. And just how subtle it is, how time goes by and you can't see it really. If you just look fast, you just look down at my hands, and I'm like, wow, they look like older hands too. Yep. And it's like it goes really fast. You just don't notice it really quick. So I thought of that, and then I did thinking of her hands. They were soft, and the veins were sticking up, and I wanted to squish them down like I did my grandma. And I probably did, and she allowed me to. And it was just a moment thinking of time. She actually passed away before the show opened.
Oh, wow.
But it was just an honor to be able to have her voice in the video that we did. And my friend, Laura Brownson, is a documentary filmmaker. When I was telling her what I was doing, she was like, I'm going to send a crew down there and just videotape you. While I was doing that, and I talked to Perez, I said, listen, I don't know what we're going to do with this. I don't know if it's going to be art or what was happening. And she said, Laura was like, let's do a documentary, let's talk. But then it was like, then we'll have to film you and follow you and while you're doing your work. And I was like, nope, we're not, I don't want to do that. So I was like, let's make art with it. And so it became, so I had a crew, which was kind of eerie at first to have that element because I wasn't used to that.
Right.
But I went during my kids' Christmas break. Took my kids down. Hey, for Christmas, we're going to Miami. Exactly. It's going to be so much fun. Push the water, children.
So they're your assistants.
They became photo assistants and water assistants. Sky, hold this camera. This is so much fun on Christmas. Merry
Christmas.
This is what fun looks like. For real. Let's all work. I'm sure Sky was probably holding the pictures while I'm holding them up. Taking the pictures for me.
I was going to ask you that.
Yeah, and we're trying to document. So this is like my process. I'm holding people. Often it becomes a very intimate process that I do. 90% of people tell me they can swim when they show up.
Yep.
And then they say, I can swim. I'm great. Let's do this. I just have to hold the wall. I can swim. I just don't put my face in the water. Okay. Let's do this. So I have learned. So like the first hour, like I want to shoot usually around noon. Everyone comes at 10. We do our in the water.
Okay.
I can kind of assess where they are. We get comfortable, and that's very much a part of it. But sometimes I want to someone in the back and I want to get it in a certain way. A lot of my photos, as you can see, look like this. And then I'm paint. Look, this is me, Mr. Flowers, which had painting that we did there. This is me holding them up. This is what they look like. So if I have a vision of how I want it to look, I can get it, in a certain way. I want them to look like they're not necessarily in water. He's not swimming. Right. He's stepping out in another form or space or dimension. He's, looking. I was like, look at your friend, man. There's your guy, Kevin. Say hi. What's your best friend's name? I'm sitting there. That's what I'm saying to him. What's your friend? Okay, he's over there. Go say hi. What's up? Getting them to do emotion, like he's seeing someone that he remembers. So those are the kind of things that I'm trying to get out of them, so they look comfortable and they're looking like something else. That the water is just another environment. It's not necessarily water itself.
Right. It's the sort of medium, if you will, but it's not anchoring it. It's like okay.
Yes, I'm trying to get more, and that's why they're in their clothes usually. Yeah. I don't want it to necessarily. It can. There are some of my paintings that look like someone swimming, but it's not really about swimming. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's another way, because water itself that we could talk about, has so many meanings for us when you put a black body in water, what that really, the depths of that and all the different meanings it could be.
Speak to that a little bit.
It's just water is life. It definitely gives you, symbolically, you baptize yourself in water, or water is we're majority water. The majority of the earth is water. Our body's made of water. We need water to survive. It is something that, I was studying water memory theory, where water retains the molecules of things that have dissolved in it. And so I was thinking a lot about that. If you take water at the top of a river and you test it, and you test the water at the bottom of a river, there'll be other sediments in it. It's different because of what it went through. And then you have to think of that water, no water leaves the earth. It's all recycled, right? So with that being said, thinking of the Middle Passage and the water and those that we have lost and that are in that water, that is going up into the clouds and raining down. We are drinking The water, it is all being recycled. It never leaves, you know? And with us, that plus our history with segregation, of segregated pools or can't drink from a water fountain, it has a thing where, because of segregation laws and us not, one, let's say class, and many of us didn't have pools in our backyard, a large majority. So we didn't have access to pools publicly either. Not only we weren't in our backyard, but we didn't have access to go, except for like really small limitations of this day or that day, or not at all.
Right.
So us being able to swim or not being able to swim is a result of segregation laws in the next generation. Your parents don't know how to swim, they're not going to take you swimming. Right? So a lot of us don't have, think of it as a leisure or something for us.
But it's also a life skill, because, there are people between, I think, 5 and 19, African Americans are 5.5 times more prone to drown.
Yes.
So we're the highest drowning statistic.
Yes.
So it becomes something, and again, in your work, you're teasing with, I think, not teasing, but you are tapping into that delicate balance of the fragility, but also the possibility, the recycling, the memory, the layers of, sort of what this water, the depths of it, really, it seems like is really critical to the ways in which you are sort of exploring so many possibilities. Bringing it back to this Overtown project, you're playing with scale a lot with a lot of these works too. I mean, some of them are really, really large, and then we see the details of his tattoos, or even in one of the earlier ones with and even the older woman, the sort of intricate detail in their clothing. How long did it take? I'm just going to be like, how long did something like this take? When you got that call from Perez, and you're like, I'm doing big, small, I'm going out, I'm doing it. So
yes, it took almost a year, just to really finish it up. But it was a little less than a year, but it was a lot of work to do. and the details in the clothing, or with the other piece with Devon is the other model here. He was one of the only ones with no shirt, but I felt like his tattoo shirt was there. Mm-hmm. I get wardrobe for my models, and he was changing in one of his, and I saw his tattoo, and I was like, wait, does that say Towner for life or Overtown? And he was like, yeah, I'm Towner for life. He was like really proud of Overtown. And I was like, oh, I got to get that. That was another one. I was like, that's the thing. That's that love and that pride. That pride that all of them had for Overtown. They really did.
Were they still residents?
Yes.
All of these people were still residents of Overtown.
Yes.
So even though they've been, historically it's been displaced, there's still this people hanging on to this neighborhood in this area. Yes, there are people there, and now gentrification is actually, unfortunately, looks like it's about to push those that are left maybe out. I hope not, though. I hope some of this could help, But Devon, who's one of the models here, he's there. And again, when Danny got a list of people for me, I talked to him on the phone. Then I said I want to meet him when I went to Miami. I did all these shoots of different people. Some didn't get to be in the show. I couldn't make it as, I could have kept going. There were so many people that were very interested. Okay. But Devon, when I saw that, he talked to me about Overtown. It was just so much love for his city, and I wanted to capture that. I wanted to show him as in a very large scale. Mm-hmm. So thinking about almost like Renaissance paintings, where someone larger than life gives a godliness. Yes. Thinking of if we can go back to that painting again, I wanted to almost make him in the cross shape on the wood, his hair making me think of a crown, putting the light on his chest on the Towner. He is looking beyond, thinking of something other, the future,
There is a future. He is there, and Overtown. It was really important for me with this show to have faces. A lot of my work don't have faces.
Exactly.
Or I'll break off the head with the, abstract distortion. But this show, I needed it because I wanted people to see, I wanted the community to come in to the show and see themselves and say, that's Devon, I just saw him. I wanted them to see themselves, and also like the access to the museum to feel like, this is home too, this is your museum. And this is Marquise. He had told me this story that for years ago, before it was a totally different administration there, because Franklin and them are amazing at the Perez Museum. Yes. Years ago, he had worked in the kitchen at the Perez Museum, and he was told by somebody who worked there, like, don't go up into the galleries. You can only walk in this one way, but you can't walk and go through the galleries. And I was like, well, now I'm going to put your painting in the gallery. You're going to be up on that wall, And he was so proud, and he had his family and his kids, and he, in the video you could see him. It was very important for me to show in my head this young man as this beautiful father, because he was very young. I mean, not crazy young, but young in his 20s, but it was just like the stereotype of black men and fatherhood. The gentleness that he's holding his son in that video was important for me to show. It was also little things in the video. I wanted to show black hair wet. I did. Like these, you're going to see little small things in there because it's so beautiful wet. But it was this whole thing of black women with their hair getting wet, right? But for me, it was like these hairstyles, and there's one where the girl's hair is shimmering. You see the light on it. It was like small moments when we were making decisions, how subtle things that I wanted to make sure were emphasized, that debunk some stereotypes. And even for ourselves, look how beautiful your hair, it looked wet, Or, this young man, or this beautiful young guy with his tattoo, and he was looking, forward and beyond just like the other image.
I mean, and there's a certain heaviness, right, in the topic, but then there's a sense of play that just sort of, I think, happens naturally when they get in the water, and you see that evoked a lot in the film, and you're like, can everybody swim? And then, there's always like, yes, and then a second go, well.
Yeah. That's exactly, and that's why I put it in there. I was like, this is my life, y'all. But it was cute. It was true. That's exactly what she did. They all told me on the phone they could swim. Everyone could swim. And then you can see the camera filmed it. And she was like, can everyone swim? And she was like, well, last week I went in the water once. She was like, okay. We got this. But then look, they end up swimming. I actually had a swim coach for this. I couldn't play, right? I'm coming down to Miami. So I had a woman, her name is Simone. I flew her from LA with me to teach and get them to be able to at least float. And so we had swim lessons with my subjects. Wow. And it was great.
Calida, that just reminds me of this passage I just recently heard by this cultural critic and professor, Huey Copeland. And he talks about sort of deep looking as a practice of care. It allows us to discover Black art as a mode of thinking and with tending toward Black being. And that just, this tenderness and this care seems to really, I think, embody your practice.
Oh, thank you.
And you see it holistically. I want to open it up for questions, I think for a few questions, but this has just reminded me of pastel being one of your first loves, and I didn't get to that. We talked about scale, we talked about Away with Tides. So 2 questions. 1, can you speak about sort of your love for pastel? Mm-hmm. And then 2, how do you come up with these beautifully poetic titles for your work? So.
Okay. 1, with my titles, I get them from songs sometimes, from poetry. I do a lot of wordplay. When I hear something, like, I have a little notebook sometimes when I'm painting, and I hear a passage or something, sometimes I'll write a little bit down. Or if I have like the idea of what I want the painting to be about, I'll try to think of some titles and I'll just keep playing, you know. But hallowed be her name. The her, of course, is usually, you know, not there.
Right.
But I was thinking of this mother, the sacrifice, and the highway. So I had these images. I got these archival photos of Overtown before the highway, after the highway, and I drew on them. I got them printed on pastel paper, and then I drew on them with pastels. And pastel, yes, was my first medium that I used to play with. I love them because I do them with my fingers. It's a little bit more tactile. It's like I'm messy, and I'll draw and then smear them all in. I don't use like the sticks. It kind of takes away. I use my fingers.
Okay.
So I end up, when I'm doing my pastels, I go so bad that sometimes I think I lose my fingerprints.
Wow.
Yeah, I've had they would get slick. They would get super slick. If I do too many, because I'll just be doing it for hours. I've done like large pastels, and then I'll try to do gloves. I can't.
Okay.
For some reason, I can't get the thing with gloves, but I have to slow down my pastels to the point where I was like messing up my fingertips. It was crazy.
Wow.
But I love them. I love pastels. I love working with them.
And it's faster?
Yes, it is faster for me.
But you're getting so much depth in. So
Yes.
that's where
I think I'm like pushing it, and the paper has like a grit to it. I think because I'm pushing so hard.
How are you getting these little?
Oh, well, this is where I'm holding the pen, you know, the edge up and getting the corners. But like the face is probably done with my fingers, right? That's how I can get it, the depth of it. And then it becomes a line. This is definitely like my honor, like honoring Elizabeth Cassatt. Like I love her work.
Okay.
I remember as a child, my mom had a lot of her, like her books.
Yeah.
And her mother-children images were so beautiful, and especially like at the end of her career, I think she started losing her eyesight, and some of it became a little looser.
Yep.
And I really enjoyed those moments. I felt like this was like me thinking of that a little bit, like my little moment, my mother child, and that's what was important when I got the list of people that to be my models. I was like, I want to get someone very young to old. I wanted a range of age. I wanted males and females, you know, like, and so I just wanted the community to kind of see themselves all the way through.
That spectrum.
Yes.
And so with this one, are they in the pool first, and then you chose?
Yes.
They're all still. Everybody starts off in the pool.
Yes. Everybody was in the pool. She was
wading in the water.
She was in the pool with that baby. She was in the pool with that baby, and she kicked off on her back, and I got it. This image, you know, I had a lot of images of her, and I wish I could have did more. She had all these different, you know, these children, and I had them in there. I wish I could have done more, but it was really became like a selection of how big the show was in time, but it worked.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much. This has been super.
Thank you.
Love it. Do we have a little bit of time for some questions? Okay. I see this one, and then this one. I don't know. Somebody have a microphone, or how do you want us to do this? Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Thank you so much. This was such a wonderful talk, and it gave me so much. My name is Cindy Elizabeth. I'm an MFA student at Georgia State, and I just completed my thesis show. And
congratulations.
Thank you. And so now I'm focused on my thesis paper. And when I started my thesis paper last summer, you were one of the very first artists that I identified whose work I wanted to talk about. And my thesis is about Blackness and water and the Black American identity. And so when I saw that you were coming, I'm sorry, I'm talking a lot, but when I saw that you were coming, I was so excited. And so I'm just so honored to have been here and to listen to you talk about your amazing work. I feel like in your work, there's this constant of an emergence, an emerging. And so there were a couple of questions that I wanted to ask you. The first is, what role do you feel water plays in the formation of identity for Black Americans? And the next question is about referring to earlier on in the conversation this afternoon, you mentioned that there was a time earlier in your career where you were still developing your visual language, and while at that time, or before that time, you were learning to swim. And so I just wanted to ask if you could talk a little bit more about how the water really sort of influenced this canon of work for you, and what role the water has in your own personal identity formation as a Black woman.
Oh, okay. Let's see. Let's start with the Black identity in water. We a lot of times identify as not being able to swim. I mean, that's what the view or stereotype is. It's become also something that some of us say about ourselves or say it's not for us. And I'm hoping that these paintings and seeing us with such agency will take that out of a lot of people's minds, that the water and that it is ours. Just like the air is ours, so is the water. My own personal identity, I love to swim. I do not swim as much as I need to. I'm trying to get a pool done right now, so I can swim and shoot in that pool and do more beautiful work, I hope.
Yes, and so it shall be.
Yes, and so it shall be. There was another question in there that I didn't say. What was, that was it? Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
Hello, thank you so much. My name is Chip Moody. Oh, sorry about that. My question was, looking at the earlier work, it seemed to be very much tied to historic narratives, and as your work has continued, it seems like you are building new mythologies to compete with those historic narratives. And so as someone who cares very much about mythology building, particularly for Black people, I wanted to know what role building mythology plays for you in your work.
Very good question. Yes, I think you're right, and that is true. It was very, I do make imaginary stories as I'm going, especially like with a certain oblivion in my head. I don't know where it is, I could find it, but I started like this, I wrote a few lines, something like to start off like this myth of a rebirth of us, and how this single female figure found her sister, and together, they were able to come and, save us, and I think it does help me in creating these these stories, I guess, in a way. This mythology, yeah, it's like me, I have to believe that this is just a moment in time that for some reason needs to happen for us to rebuild what we all need and deserve. And that's what I tell myself. That maybe things had to crash down or be leveled for us to really have a fair and equitable society. And this is just the beginning of that. This is just a moment before that happens. And I believe that. And in the work, I think some of that is, it is playing with that mindset and trying to paint that into existence. And so it shall be. Yeah.
So we're going to try this again. First of all, from Miami and resident of Little Haiti, which is north of Overtown. Spent my whole childhood years there. Can't thank you enough publicly for bringing attention to Overtown. Overtown now has the it's not called American Airlines Arena anymore, but there's just been so much more development there, and with what's happening, to your point, they are looking at gentrification is about to outplace or displace some more Overtowners. You could have easily looked up some pictures and drew some people in some water to talk about the Overtown story. You could have I think about shortcuts every time I see people's process, or every time I hear about people's process. Why were you so diligent to go to Miami and capture these folks and bring the coach and go to Key Biscayne and do what you did to bring more attention to, or to create this work? Why the importance?
Because you're a badass. Thank you. Thank you.
I think it's more authentic. I think I need to feel too for it to be good work. You know, I love that it is something that is good to do, but it's also selfish. You know, I needed it too. If I'm going to pull from this well to make some beautiful work, I need to feel it. And I wanted to talk to the people there. I needed to hear Miss Roll tell me about what it was like. I needed to talk to Mr. Flowers and him tell me the memories of going there. And it was like I remember he was telling me there was a train that went there as a kid, and hearing the sounds. So when he's looking out, I was like trying to get all of his memories. I wanted to feel that on his face. I had visions of how I wanted to be. I wanted to know the people there so I could really pull from that energy to understand what I'm painting. You know, and I want to be connected to them, and I'm forever connected to Overtown now. Yeah.
And Calida, are you going in, some of these things are sort of microscopic details, and then are you going, painting, losing sight, getting in the flow, and then coming back out, looking at it, perspective, and are you just back and forth?
I go back, when I'm painting it, paint, and I step all the way back, and I go, and then sometimes I'm zooming into areas. I can get lost in the zoom in of like the details of something, and I got to catch it back, and it is something. Like this piece here, you know, I thought I loved it because it's the cross of her legs, but then I wanted her foot to be swiped away. And you see like this whiteness coming in, this erasure that's happening of the whole environment, you know, and thinking about what's happening there in Overtown. And then the top part, I put the shape of Overtown. I looked at that and tried to put that in there in the body where I think the heart would be if she was turned over. So I thought of Overtown and putting those little small things in was important.
Great, thank you.
Don't stop. This is congratulations. Thank you for making your work beautiful and meaningful and important and current. This is my third time in Third City with you. You seem to, and I don't know if this is intentional or not, maybe this is your faith experience, have speaking engagements about your work at significant political times. The night in Miami, it was the night of the debate that launched VP Harris' campaign. Today, across the nation, there are tons of protesters in the streets, even coming here today. I've always been inspired by the stories behind the stories and the images in your work. What's the story to the protester today? What would you like your art to tell the world today? Sorry for the deep question.
No. We need it. To not stop and don't give up and keep protesting. We have to protest in our own ways, and we all have to keep our sanity too. And that's what's really hard. I think I did a painting as I watched, this one here, and I drew them in. I don't know if you could see it, and I washed them away, you know. But it was like, I felt as a black woman, don't go out and protest right now, because we had our time, right? We were protesting, I know that kind of campaign. You can go out if you want, but then I'm sitting in the sidelines this time. You know what I mean? There's the debate you have on how you want to show up right now, because we've done so much heavy lifting since the beginning of our time here, fighting for equality. And I think that election that just happened took our breath away. recognizing that all that we've been fighting for, there's so many people that wanted to go all the way back. And we need to take care of ourselves right now, mentally, spiritually, and do whatever we can when we're ready to fight the fight that we're going to have to keep fighting, it looks like, by re-educating people, educating our own children with true history, our history, a broad history that it encompasses all ethnic groups and communities and sexualities and everything. Like whatever they're trying to take away, look at that banned book list. You make sure you buy them. Let's keep these books. Let's, all different, support our businesses, whatever way that we need to go. If it's not marching, there's all different ways that we can show up and be there for each other. And I think right now, which is beautiful, is much more community engagement. I think it seems right now even more important to hang with your friends and spend time with the people that we love. It shows the importance of time, and the valuing our time right now, because we don't know what's happening. And some people that are in charge are insane, and we just have to ride this wave and sit back and take care of each other. And that's all we can do right now. And there's a lot of power in that, of taking care of yourself, self-care. Like Audre Lorde was definitely saying for a long time, self-care is a form of resistance,
Exactly.
right? And we have to do that and be there for each other.
And on that note, I'm going to say thank you all so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And Calida, thank you. Thank you for your work. Thank you for your work. And this is the Spelman
Thy name we praise.
Yes.
Thank you, everyone, for coming out. Thank you all. Thank you, Calida. Thank you, Rhea. Thank you, President Brewer. The museum will remain open until 5 p.m. today, so feel free to go enjoy this incredible exhibition, and the catalog is for sale in the museum as well.